Carpentry by NJT is based in the western suburbs and has many years of experience to assist you in sourcing any and all of your carpentry needs. Carpentry by NJT are great supporters of local soccer clubs in Melbourne's western suburbs, including ambitious State League One outfit Sydenham Park Soccer Club. Home Builders Corp, meanwhile, is a Melbourne-based construction company by the same owners with more than 15 years' experience. Home Builders Corp specialises in new homes and unit developments. With attention to detail, they work to the highest standard to satisfy their customers with a very quick turnaround. For further details about how either Carpentry by NJT or Home Builders Corp can help you, contact owner-manager Nick on 0410 576 018 or via email at nick@homebuilderscorp.com.au. Carpentry by NJT and Home Builders Corp are the proud major sponsors of the Football Out West show. Good evening, folks, and a very warm welcome to yet another Sunday night episode of the Football Out West show. It's episode 121. It's our fifth season, and who can believe how time flies by ever so quickly. My name's Tonchi Prusek. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you tonight. And boy, in this World Cup week, Women's World Cup week, isn't the action hotting up all over the state? And indeed, tonight we will be taking a very, very special look at the NPL1, NPL2 and NPL3 divisions. And to do that with me, as he does week in, week out, Steve Curtin. Good evening, Steve. How are you?
Yeah, good evening, Tonchi. Thanks for having us on again tonight. What a big Sunday night it is. We wouldn't be anywhere else. And a big thanks, as always, to our sponsors, Carpentry by NJT and Home Builders Corp. And a big thank you to you, the viewer, who is tuning in, or the listener, if you're listening on Spotify sometime tomorrow or the day after that, perhaps. But thanks for your company. I'm looking forward to a really big show. And it's been a great weekend, Tonchi. Friday night, it was started off in the best possible way. Got to have the night off commentating and go down to Marvel Stadium and be a part of that record-breaking crowd, 50,600 people watching the Matildas against France. I had a very exciting game at NPL Victoria yesterday, but we'll come to that. But Heidelberg and Avondale played out a very aggressive and attacking brand of football by both sides. That was exciting afternoon. And then, another good day today with the sun out as well, Tonchi. But how are you?
Mate, it's as we said, football is just hotting up at the moment. There is action aplenty, both at the top of the competition standings and at the bottom of the competition standings in all of the divisions. We're going to tonight take a comprehensive look at NPL1, NPL2 and NPL3, as well as cast our eyes on NPLW, Men's State 1 and State 2, as well as a lot to get through. We'll also be looking at some of the news that's happening as well around the traps, and we'll touch on that Friday night. Record-breaking crowd, wasn't it, Steve? We'll touch on that. But before we move on to the news desk, mate, who are our guests for tonight?
Yeah, three great guests tonight. We'll start off. Our first guest is from Green Gully Cavaliers. It's their midfielder, Gianluca Iannucci, who they had a good win last night against Hume City to keep the pressure on for that spot in the finals race that they're racing head-to-head with Altona. And from Kingston City, and aren't they going well at the moment? A really good result for them on the weekend. CON TANGALAKIS, the coach, and also a familiar figure on the Football Out West show, Mark Sultana, the president of Caroline Springs, George Cross. And in the NPL3, they are on a really good winning streak. So looking forward to speaking to Mark and finding out more about that. And they're doing very well, Tonchi.
Yeah, I tell you what, we constantly go on about the competition of chaos, or the chaos competition, NPL2. but NPL3 is getting very, very exciting there as well. And I'll tell you what, there was some more than exciting results or unexpected results in the NPL Victoria competition as well. So, folks, hang on to your seats, buckle yourself up. We've got a massive show for you tonight, and we're going to get straight into it after this very, very short break. Don't go away. You are watching and tuning in to the Football Out West show.
Carpentry by NJT is based in the western suburbs and has many years of experience to assist you in sourcing any and all of your carpentry needs. Carpentry by NJT are great supporters of local soccer clubs in Melbourne's western suburbs, including ambitious State League One outfit Sydenham Park Soccer Club. Home Builders Corp, meanwhile, is a Melbourne-based construction company by the same owners with more than 15 years' experience. Home Builders Corp specialises in new homes and unit developments. With attention to detail, they work to the highest standard to satisfy their customers with a very quick turnaround. For further details about how either Carpentry by NJT or Home Builders Corp can help you, contact owner-manager Nick on 0410 576 018 or via email at nick@homebuilderscorp.com.au. Carpentry by NJT and Home Builders Corp are the proud major sponsors of the Football Out West show.
In the history of women's football in Australia, 50,629 the official attendance.
The crowds at home just keep getting better and better, and you know they're really going to get us over the line in this World Cup. So I think they're very important, and I think they need to know that. We always knew that the home crowd would give us energy, but I don't think you really know until you step out into a field and you're listening to the national anthem and belting it out, and so is the rest of the crowd, and everything you do just gets a big cheer, and it really does give you energy and it does give you that extra boost. You just feel like you can run all day.
Great getting everyone around, sold out stadium, good influence on all the girls. Great seeing everyone here, good vibes, good people, up the Aussies!
There you go, mate. Some footage there of Friday night. A record-breaking crowd, that is, until this Thursday for a standalone Matildas football game in Australia. Over 50,000 people. And Steve, you were there. Tell us, mate. Tell us your experiences, your recollections of Friday night at Marvel Stadium.
Yeah, look, it's a funny tidbit to be a part of that record-breaking crowd that will only stand for 6 days when it gets smashed by about 80,000 people at the Stadium Australia on Thursday night at 8 o'clock. But it was just such an exciting experience of seeing a huge amount of people turning up, getting on the train, going to the pub beforehand, everyone with their colours on to go and get behind the Matildas. And to think, you know, it was, I think 21 years ago was the first time I saw the Matildas live. It was at the Tom Flood Sports Centre in Bendigo in front of 2,600 people. And that's probably a friendly estimate of what the crowd was there that day too. The team's come a long way, and they deserve all of the media attention that they're getting, and they've got to perform under pressure. And that's what they did. It was it was a professional sort of performance against the world number 5 team coached by Hervé Renard, who's just come across from working in the Men's World Cup in Qatar with Saudi Arabia. Big job, for him leading his team into this World Cup and then into the Olympics next year as well. But look, I think we performed pretty well. We got better as the game went on, and just as part of a spectacle, the noise and the crowd and the atmosphere, there was just so many young faces in the crowd and knowledgeable young faces too. There was a couple of kids in front of us that could pick out every player, despite the fact they're on level 1, and it was a shocking vantage point to actually see what was going on out there. So do take any analysis I have from the game with a grain of salt. But look, a really good occasion. What were your thoughts, mate?
I didn't want to watch it live. I had basketball commitments, believe it or not. My daughter plays basketball on a Friday night, and I actually had to be the scorer. So that is very,
concentrate
very
on what was happening. Yeah,
yeah, very stressful. But yeah. Anyway, look, I did catch the highlights afterwards, and yeah, look, as you said, polished performance. I was really, really impressed just with the application. Like, it's a massive crowd. They haven't played in front of that big of a crowd on home soil, and you would have thought, oh, maybe they possibly could quite easily have been intimidated by the occasion. But no, as you mentioned, it was a professional performance. A lot of these ladies do play in Europe, at some of the highest leagues in Europe. So it was a brilliant effort. From a local point of view, I was great to see Kyra Cooney Cross in action there, playing full game. She's an absolute gun, only young, but still very young. But look, Fowler coming on at the in the second half, scoring.
And what a well taken goal by Mary as well.
Yeah.
It's fantastic first touch and left footed finish. Put it all down to those gloves that she had on. I think that was the key there when she had those gloves on when she came on as the sub. She was always going to cause problems. But yeah, looking at that starting lineup, it looks like a lot of those spots that were as selected on Thursday night are probably nailed on. Probably the questions, does Claire Polkinghorn have room to come back into defence, and does she have the fitness? Because Claire Hunt was really good in central defence with Kennedy, and we did go to 3 centre backs with Lewick and Polkinghorn later in the game when we were protecting it. So we might see that if we're winning against Ireland on Thursday night, maybe Tony G will go to 3 at the back. And there's plenty of improvement, I think, in players like Ali Carpenter, who is still on the comeback trail from that ACL injury. Caitlin Ford and Sam Kerr in attack. Ford looked fantastic. She could well be one of the players, if not the player of the tournament. Ironically, the goal came after Ford and Kerr were subbed off. Courtney Vine showed some great pace down the flanks, and Katrina Go's looking strong as ever in the centre of midfield. She was the real dominant player in there. Cooney Cross getting more into the game as it went on. Mackenzie Arnold looks like she's locked down that goalkeeper's position there. That's going to be hers. And then it's a matter of, who do we have coming on to make the impact off the bench? A lot of fans of Alex Chidiak out there in the footballing community. Didn't get to see her come on. That was a little bit disappointing, but maybe we'll see her at some point. And Kaya Simon as well, who's still not 100% fit. The word is that when we get perhaps maybe to a knockout game and we need some experience and give her a few more days to find her match fitness, she will be getting involved at a key moment, perhaps in a game off the bench as well.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic prelude to or curtain raiser to the World Cup. It all kicks off this Thursday, 8 p.m. Australia, Ireland, as you said, Steve, a sold-out crowd. And look, it's good to see that, everyone is jumping on board. The media, the mainstream media who've been so slow to jump on board have started coming on board. And look, they're up to their old tricks, Immediately the next day, I think I was reading an article where they were saying, the ratings, it doesn't compete to AFL, and it was just marginally bigger than the NRL and blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking to myself, look, any excuse that they can to either jump off the bandwagon or criticise. But, put that aside. It was great to see, in the social media platforms, all the social media platforms, people taking entire teams to the game. People, not just girls, not just young female footballers, but boys and men and what you're not going along to the game.
True. Yeah. There were so many squads of players in their club, local club beanies and things like that, getting around and representing. It was good to see.
And I honestly believe the football community, and I talk about the football community, the parents, the players, the coaches, the administrators, the spectators, the fans, is going to grow. It's going to grow as a result of this Women's World Cup, and we're just not ready for it. We haven't got the number of coaches. We don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the playing fields. We're just going to get absolutely flooded. But I'm just hoping that there'll be a flow-on effect, and various tiers of government will turn around and say, well, we need to now just pull the finger out and start supporting football a little bit more, because we are the most participated team sport in Australia, nationally, and we get such a minute percentage of funding. And I just pray, I do hope that will translate into just a complete turnaround in Australian society. Let's call it that. But
that's right. Well, the legacy of the tournament's important, and you just feel that not putting any more pressure on the Matildas than there already is. But the further they go into the tournament, the more that argument will get stronger and stronger. So let's wait and see what happens in the coming weeks. And we certainly wish Tony G and the team all the best, because they're going to do great. They've put the work in, and the whole nation's behind them.
Yeah, now a rather significant occurrence over the last few days has been the fact that Football Australia have released the domestic match calendar for next year. And it's very interesting about this is they've actually allowed what they call a placeholder or placemat, if you like, between March and October of next year for a proposed national second division. Now, obviously, Steve, that doesn't mean that the competition will run from March till October, but it could. But it just means that in that period, there has actually been an allocated period set aside for the National Second Division. So fingers crossed we're going to see the highly anticipated National Second Division do kick off next week and next year. And that's something that we can talk with our guest tonight, the president of Caroline Springs, George Cross, Mark Sultana, who has been a regular on this show. But also overnight, mate, over in Perth, West Ham United took on a very young, very youthful Perth Glory. They defeated Perth Glory 6-2. Tottenham Hotspur is on its way as well. So that is going to be also, that's happening this week over in WA. And a big announcement, by the way, one of our sister podcasts, the Auscrow Soccer Show, which is normally on Wednesday, will not be airing this week because my co-host, Ante, is flying all the way over to Perth, probably hoping to get a scoop with either Mile Jedinak or Ivan Perisic, who is travelling Ange Postecoglou's squad to WA. So
exciting.
It is.
It is. Can we touch on the Nike FC Cup semi-finals during the week? Calder beating South Melbourne, getting through to the final. They've won this one the last 5 times in a row. Calder United, now aligned with Western United. They're going to play FC Buoyant Lions, who dispatched with the Casey Comets from the VPLW. And in the Doherty Cup, it was a comprehensive win for Heidelberg, 5-0 over the Goulburn Valley Suns. And they're going to face Oakley, who beat the Knights by 3-1 on Wednesday night at Knights Stadium. Those matches coming up on the weekend of the 5th and 6th of August. So not long to go until those finals. So looking forward to hearing the announcement of when they might take place. Could they even be on a Friday night? Who knows? And what will the venue be? Could it even be maybe the new home of the Matildas? At least one of those matches.
Wouldn't that be good? That would be absolutely fantastic. And I reckon you might be onto something. We're going to take a very quick break, a jingle break, so to speak. When we return, it's time to look at the NPL Victoria competition. We're going to have our very first guest, Green Gully youngster GIANLUCA IANNUCCI. I hope I pronounced that correctly, but he will correct me if need be. Folks, don't go away. It's the Football Outwear Show. Strap yourselves in. As I said, it's a big show coming up. And on the other side of this very short jingle break, we've got the NPL Victoria competition. As I said, very short break. And it's time.
That was short. Wow.
It's time to look at the NPL Victoria.
Oh, I was going to leave the room.
Oh, were you?
Sneak out and come back? No chance.
Luckily, you didn't. Steve, have you got the results of the latest round of matches there?
Yeah, we do. So we'll look at the matches. So this is from the NPL 1. We've got the table on the screen for you. And we'll start with the matches that have just been completed this afternoon. The Knights getting an important one, a 2-1 win against Moreland City. After the disappointment in the Doherty Cup in midweek, they were on the score sheet within 8 minutes with Kieran Bramwell getting a drought-breaking goal for him. Jaden Brown leveled things up on what was a double-edged sword kind of game for him. He was eventually sent off on 87 minutes after John Albano had scored the winner on 80 minutes. So the Knights getting an all-important 3 points and holding on to that spot on 4th on the table ahead of Port Melbourne. Altona Magic 4-1 over St Albans this afternoon. There was a couple of goals for Markowski, but it was Josh, not Jonas this week. Also, Sian Cuba scoring twice as well. Aaron Anderson sent off, as was Christopher Dibb, and Justin Mickliffe with the solitary goal for St Albans. That's 5 losses in a row for St Albans. Dandenong Thunder with a bit of a cricket score last night at George Andrews. Grad Damon scoring a hat-trick, Casper Hallam a double, and Josh Carrance against North Geelong Warriors side, who couldn't trouble the scoreboard attendant. Green Gully got there over the line eventually. James Doyle getting his first goal for the Cavaliers, the big central defender, on 70 minutes. That was a 1-0 over Hume City. Really good result for Port Melbourne, 2-0, courtesy of a brace from Chris Duggan, a penalty, and one where he just ran right through the heart of the Oakley Cannons defence to make it 2-0. So a surprise result, you might say there. One of the teams in the top 2 getting beaten. And Bentley Greens against South Melbourne, well, it was Jake Marshall, the central defender, with central defenders scoring a lot of goals this weekend, with a fine finish, and a former Greens player, Yagub Mustafa, getting a goal in the 93rd minute just to seal the result there. 2-0 for South, who moved back up into second. And I was on hand with young Jasper Woodcock at this one. Heidelberg United 1, Avondale 1. A little bit of a surprise result. You'd think Avondale were going to turn the screws against Heidelberg, but Mo Aidara scoring on 4 minutes, and it took until the 81st minute when Liston Diaz levelled things up. A really open and free-flowing game in front of a great crowd at that match at John Cain Memorial Reserve rather than the Olympic Village. So an exciting contest there yesterday. And yeah, what a big round. And you think, Tonchi, that the NPL2 we call the Chaos League, well, maybe the NPL1 is trying to catch up with a couple of topsy-turvy results at the top end of the table.
Yeah, that Oakley one, that was a big result, actually. And like, it just seems to, if we take a look at that ladder again, South Melbourne and Oakley Cannons yo-yoing there as well. But that battle for 6th spot, that all-important 6th spot, it's really going to come down to the wire. And I tell you what, Green Gully just at the moment 1 point outside of the competition standings there. But next week, Altona Magic taking on Oakley Cannons, so that's going to be a tough one. They host the wounded Oakley Cannons on Saturday night, but the Green Gully will be on Friday night taking on the Melbourne Knights, hosting the Melbourne Knights, and that's going to be a massive game in view of everything that is happening there at the top of the NPL Victoria competition. And as a result, it's now time to bring on our first guest. It's an absolute pleasure to have Gianluca Iannucci on the show tonight. Gianluca, how are you? Welcome to the Football Out West show.
Cheers. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Cheers. Now, Iannucci, is that how I pronounce it? Is that?
Yeah, you've got that pretty spot on, actually.
Oh, there you go. I'm glad you know. Mate, first of all, good win on the weekend. It was a tough one. It was a really we've got some highlights there of the game there, but it was a tough game. Hume City have been having having an up and down season, sort of yo-yoing as well, as are Green Gully. Sometimes one week you'll play really well, another week you'll just play poorly and drop points. But this game, very, very important game. 1 goal only, but it was a very vital goal. Take us through the game.
Yeah, I think we probably started a little bit slower. Not slower, but as games usually start, is a little bit tight. Obviously, we'd like to probably play a little bit more on the front foot at times. But in saying that, we also don't want to make sure that we're mindful that we don't get done on the break, which we have a few times this year. But I think as the game went on, we were in control. I was actually talking to someone today about that. It was only 1-0, but if you look, I don't think our keeper really had any saves to make. We put them under pressure. Could have taken a few more chances, but 1-0 at this stage of the season, just like you said, Altona 1 point above us for the 6th, so we'll take that every day of the week.
Definitely a good result to get at this time of year, Gianluca. Now, what's your preferred role in the team at the moment? Because I've seen you lining up in the midfield 3 and out on the flank in the front 3. Where do you like to play your football most of all?
I'll say the generic thing of I'll play anywhere. Look, probably for me, either out wide or as an attacking midfielder. Anywhere in those areas where I can get a lot of the ball. The coaches, if I do play wide, they allow me to sort of come inside and get on the ball and pretty much play as another attacking midfielder. But I found myself playing as a defensive midfielder. It's been a funny year because we've had a lot of boys out injured, and we've just I've been filling holes at the moment, which I'm happy that they trust me to do that, and I'm happy to do that. So I'm not going to complain. with where I play, but probably higher up the pitch is where I prefer to play.
Yeah. Gianluca, you just mentioned now that you've had a lot of injuries, and you have. And would that be one of the reasons for the inconsistencies, or is it just, it's a long season? Is it just a tough competition, a tough league? What have been the ingredients for the inconsistency this year?
Oh, well, of course, yeah, it is a tough league. But I think looking at our squad and the list that we have, we do have a strong team, some great individuals, and we have put together some really great performances this season. In saying that, we've also dropped points where I think we shouldn't have dropped points, and we know that as a group. But injury plays a big part in that, and injuries to players that. Because we're a very young team. I think we're one of the youngest in the league. And when you're losing the more senior players who are still only, 28, 27, 26 years old, and you're feeling that with 17, 18, 19-year-olds, it does make a big difference. Senior football is a big jump from, playing 21. So when those boys step up, which they've got the ability to, but, you can see there's a little bit of inexperience at times, which that's just the way the game is. That's the way the game is. That's what we've been dealt this year, and we have to get on with it. So, but I think that's been probably one of the reasons why there's been a bit of inconsistency and the team's sort of chopping and changing. But yeah, we'll still put our head down. We can't complain. So that's how it is.
Yeah, and Gianluca, speaking with your team manager, Ruben, earlier today, he was saying, the average age of the squad is only 22 years of age. And it is funny because when you watch you guys play, you wouldn't always notice that, because I think that young group of players play with a lot of maturity, perhaps beyond their years. But speaking of young players, you were busy yourself today doing a bit of coaching, because you coach the NPL under 16 team at Green Gully as well, which a lot of people, including myself, didn't know that until today. That's quite interesting. How was your day as a coach today?
Actually, really good today. We won 6-1. So
well done, congrats.
Yeah, no, we played well, but yeah, that's something that I've wanted to get into coaching. I didn't expect it to come this soon. There was sort of a spot available at Gully because something happened with one of the coaches' visas. I was already helping out, and so that team lost a coach, 5 games into their season, and I sort of went, you know what, I'll do it. And I actually really, really enjoyed it. Just before I got on, actually, I was looking at some stuff for next week, just getting ready. So, yeah, that's something that I enjoy, and maybe after football, something that I want to get into.
Yeah, excellent. You got a definite fan there. Chris Valla says, Gianluca Iannucci, great person to have at Green Gully. Great to see him giving back by coaching juniors. So, absolutely. It's always great to see active players getting involved in coaching. And I'll tell you what, certainly... no doubt your boys appreciate that, and they've repaid you with a good win today. Now, looking ahead, you talked about looking ahead to next week. Green Gully hosting Melbourne Knights at Green Gully Reserve on Friday night. Now, look, not only is it a Western Suburbs derby, and games between these two teams goes back, to the 70s and 80s, but now it's not just bragging rights, I guess, up for grabs. There's a lot more. Obviously you're playing for the 6th position that leads to finals. How are you going to approach this week's game being such a crucial game to your hopes?
Probably the same way we've been approaching, the last few weeks. I think it's fair to say that North Geelong and Moreland, especially Moreland, disappointing results. So there was a big emphasis that, if we want to make finals, which that's what we set our goal at the start of the year, then we need to start approaching every session. We need to turn it up. We do work really hard on the training track. The coaches put in a lot of effort. The staff put in a lot of effort. And we also match that with our effort that we put in. But, that's all pointless, I guess, if you don't turn up when it matters. And in a game against Melbourne Knights, who are always there for the battle, we've got to match that and go beyond if we want to take anything away from the game, because they're having a really, really good season. They're playing good football, so we can't treat it with any disrespect, which we shouldn't. And we've got to be at our best if we want to get points from this game, and give ourselves the best chance of playing finals.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and also in the comments as well, Noel Bernardo, your teammate, is a big fan of your work as well, Gianluca. But now you're someone who's played in in Australia's top flight at Melbourne Victory in the past, and in the Asian Champions League and this kind of thing. Does the national second division, is that something that excites you about the prospect of maybe playing in that competition in the future?
Yeah, certainly. And I think, Gully are a club that are obviously aspiring to get into that division. So, they're starting to, I think in the back plan, maybe if that does go ahead. So, I'm happy with where I'm at. And I'm hoping that Gully get into it, because I really, really enjoy being at this club. So I hope that they can get into that stage. And it's really exciting. Obviously, as mentioned before, that they've set the calendars for next year of when it might possibly be. So, already starting to sort of plant seeds of like, okay, well, what's next year going to be about? What are the commitments that are going to be made? Because, a lot of players aren't full time. People have jobs, have commitments outside of football. So I think Gully's in a good position where a lot of the boys are still young and still wanting to be professional footballers. So we've still got the option for a lot of us where we can commit to that. So if they do get in, I think Gully's in a really good place with the players that we have available for that next year.
Now, something I really wanted to ask you, Gianluca, is obviously you're coaching and playing there. And look, we will, for a while anyway, we won't be able to have maybe a full-time national second division, or maybe we will. But let's say in the interim, while we get to that stage, is that an idea for clubs to maybe look at the idea of, getting players on a full-time basis, but when they're not playing, they're also doing things like maybe administration or management at the club, or maybe they're doing things like coaching or even technical directors, and that way they're not only, I guess, playing, but they're involved with the football club, and hence being able to then have a full-time role at the club. Is that something that, you think is feasible? And is it something that you, as a current player who is coaching, is that something that excites you, like that type of proposition?
100%. Look, for me, I love football. So if I can be around football all the time, then I will. So, and I understand that not everyone's like that, but I think it's a really, that's actually a really interesting thing. And I think that's a positive thing that clubs can start doing, is getting people involved with the football club. I know for myself, in doing it, what it's done is, I've made a commitment to the juniors of our club.
Yeah.
At the start, I was just helping around with not just the 16s, but other age groups. And it's returned in now, they come to our games and they know me, they know my face, they want to be there, they want to come and support. And they're sort of, we're getting more people to games, more young kids to games, which is, what we want as a club at Gully. Because, sometimes there's not many people there. But, now there's, a few more kids are coming to games. It's a good environment. And I know that, and I've spoken to people where they want senior players to, every now and then put in, get players to help out with the juniors, whether it's coaching, maybe once a month, or just showing their face, something as simple as showing their face around the club. I think that's important because it's still not professional environments. Look, I come from the country. And my club was very close from juniors all the way to seniors.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the environment I grew up in. And I guess that's why I am the way I am, where I want to, if I'm part of this football club, I want to commit to this football club.
Yeah.
And I think.
Where'd you grow up? Which town?
Cobram.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
So the big club there was Cobram Tigers, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yep.
Yeah. So they're one club now. Yeah. So that's sort of probably where my background sort of has molded me to what I'm like. But I think it'd be good if, not just Gully, but a lot of clubs could get people involved and senior players that can make, further commitments to the club. It's good for the kids as well, because at the end of the day, they're the future of the football club.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that could be really positive moving forward.
I think we're onto something, fellas.
Yeah.
I think we're onto a groundbreaker, I tell you what.
Yeah, that's one of the best ways, I think, to bond the junior and the senior systems of any football club. And like you mentioned, Gianluca, growing up in the country, Tonchi and I, regional Victoria, is at heart as well. And certainly relate to what you said about your time in Cobram as well. But what are your memories of junior football up there? And do you think we do enough to ensure that more country-based players are making the grade?
My memories, geez, I left when I was 14, but my memories before that, well, I was lucky enough to play in a grand final with them and win. I actually picked, I think, to play in that grand final, then to go to one of the state championships, which I was probably the bottom age. And I was like the last emergency, and someone got injured. And I actually picked to play in the grand final instead of going, which now I question why I did that. But and we were lucky enough actually to have we had some quality players playing. Sean Ellis actually come out to our club when he first come out to Australia, and he was, the standard that we had in our senior team. So we had a very good senior team that we were really close with. So I had very fond memories of just watching our senior team play. In terms of making an effort, I think the NPL and sort of clubs like Goulburn Valley Suns, Murray United, the Geelong clubs, Ballarat, Bendigo, I think that's made it a little bit more available for country kids to, give themselves an opportunity to play against boys of Melbourne and sort of test themselves and get noticed a little bit more. So I think that's a positive. And I think even the other thing as well, country kids are just wanting to come to Melbourne just to test themselves, whether it's through state teams. I think they're wanting to. I know, probably speaking to my dad and my uncles and stuff, that was probably never on the cards when they were growing up. So it's probably their generation that never got that chance. Now they want to give it to us. So I'm actually really thankful for probably the commitment that my parents made in that regard.
Yeah. Awesome, mate. On that note, we're going to let you go. Thank you very much for joining us. It was a very interesting conversation. I love these different conversations, and and like I said, I think we might be onto something. But in the meantime, wishing you all the very, very best for Friday night and for the rest of the season. It's going to be an absolute perler. And I think the last 4 games that Green Gully are playing, our opponents are Melbourne Knights, Dandenong Thunder, Heidelberg United, and then finally St Albans Saints. So it should be a really, really interesting last month of the NPL Victoria competition. Gianluca, thank you once again for joining us on the Football Out West show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, guys. Cheers.
Thanks, Gianluca. All the best.
Gianluca Iannucci from Green Gully. Now, Steve, before we take a break and focus our attention on NPL2 Victoria, the Chaos competition.
Look out.
The schedule for this week's round 23. And just a big, big shout out to Brenton Ray of North and Western Football, who does an amazing job every Saturday night coming out with the results, collating the results that even the Football Victoria competitions department doesn't do. And then he has the ladders, and then he has the schedules. And let me just say a big, big public thank you. Shout out to Brenton Ray. I'm sure he's tuning into this show tonight as well. But anyway, Friday night. Friday night, Green Gully hosting Melbourne Knights at Green Gully Reserve. That's at 8 p.m. Then on Saturday, we've got a whole host of games. Steve, let's go through those games.
Yeah, those ones on Saturday at 3. Bentley Greens hosting Hume City. North Geelong hosting Heidelberg. Moreland City hosting Dandy Thunder. A little later at 5:30. That's the local derby between Port Melbourne and South Melbourne. At 6:15, it's Altona Magic and Oakley Cannons. Big ramifications for the top 6 in that one. And then on Sunday, there's a standalone game, St Albans. Home again, looking for a result. They've, as we said, 5 losses in a row. They need to turn it around. They're playing Avondale, though, so it'll be a tough challenge.
Yeah, okay. Folks, don't go away. We're going to come back with the Chaos competition, i.e. NPL2 Victoria. And our second guest for tonight, the coach of the competition leaders, Kingston City, CON TANGALAKIS. He'll be joining us straight after the break. So, folks, don't go away. That's right. The game of two halves airing live tomorrow night from 8 p.m. and it will be simulcast live on the Football Out West Show Facebook pages and YouTube channels. And on this week's show, last week, the Football Victoria came out with a launch. It launched its regional football review. And we'll be talking to the president of the Geelong Rangers Football Club, one of the biggest clubs in the Geelong region, Tim Santalucia, about that. And also, unfortunately, the club was hit by some acts of vandalism not that long ago, and we'll be finding out all about what has gone on there. Also, we'll be talking to a young Geelong girl currently playing the NPL2 competition. We'll announce that a little bit later on. And we'll also be making a huge announcement, might not necessarily be a good one, but it's an announcement, a big announcement as well. So we'll be making that announcement tomorrow. But in the meantime, Steve, let's turn our attention to NPL2 Victoria. And let's look at the results, first of all, in this competition of absolute chaos.
Yeah, it was lots of goals again on Friday night. Dandenong City hosting Brunswick Juventus. Dandenong City 3-1 winners at Frank Holohan. Pascoe Vale went down to Northcote City at CB Smith Reserve after opening the scoring. It was Pascoe Vale 1, Northcote City 2. A good result at their arch rivals, or at least as it were this season, at Kingston City getting a 2-0 win over Preston Lions at BT Connor. Moving on to those matches that took place yesterday, it was 1-1 between Brunswick City and the FC Bulleen Lions. And speaking of Lions, Eastern Lions getting a 1-0 win against Werribee City. Manningham United were beaten at home at Petty's Reserve 4-1 by Melbourne City. And Western United got themselves back on the winners list at City Vista this afternoon against Lang Warren. And as you can see there in the table, if you're watching the on-screen version, Kingston City and Dandenong City, those two teams got good wins on Friday night, leading the way from Western United and the Preston Lions.
They're very close there. 2 points separate the top four sides, and with only two teams able to gain promotion, all eyes will be on around 23 this weekend. And that kicks off on Friday night when Brunswick Juventus hosts Western United at CB Smith Reserve. And one other Friday night game, Northcote City taking on Preston Lions, who have been struggling somewhat. That game at John Cain Memorial Park. And then we've got 3 Saturday games, Steve. Let's go through them.
Yeah, those matches coming up on Saturday. We've got the Eastern Lions hosting Brunswick City at Gardeners Creek Reserve down at Lawton Park. It's Lang Warren hosting Manningham United Blues, and Melbourne City hosting Werribee City at Parade College. Moving on to Sunday, Kingston City and Dandenong City, a top-of-the-table clash. That's Sunday at 4:45 at the Grange Reserve at Clayton South. There's going to be a few people there at that one, I fancy, Tonchi.
Yeah.
And speaking of big crowds, and speaking of big crowds, the following day, there's Monday Night Football at the Veneto Club. It's FC Bulleen Lions hosting Pascoe Vale, and both of those teams pretty keen to get some points on the board there. So there'll be, I'm sure, another big crowd there on Monday night too, supporting both of those teams. There's, just every week throwing up lots of exciting fixtures.
Yeah, now it's time to call on our next guest now. He is the coach of the competition leaders, Kingston City. They are doing very well, sitting pretty at the top, but it's very close indeed. It's Con Tangalakis, and I'm hoping Con is there. Con, are you there? No, doesn't look like we've got Con. We'll play a little bit of footage while we wait for Con. We've got to play a little footage of the Preston Lions game on the weekend. This is the Preston Lions and Kingston City game played on Friday night. Another good crowd. It was just Kingston just seemed to be doing really well. And we may have Con on there. Con, are you there?
Hi, gentlemen.
Welcome to the Football Out West show. Great to have you on the show. Con, we've got some footage there of Friday night's game. Take us through the game and how you saw it as the coach.
Well, first of all, big game, huge game. A lot to play for. The big stakes involved for both teams. The difference, I think, the pressure was nowhere near as we weren't as much pressure on as probably Preston has. Keep in mind that we were almost relegated last year, so the boys are having a year where it's all about enjoying themselves and getting the points. And if we continue our drive the way we've been going, if something goes wrong, again, we've had a stellar year. So take it to perspective at the change room. I didn't put pressure on the boys whatsoever. It was all about enjoying the game. A decent crowd. We tend to lift in games like this, like the FFA Cup. We knocked out South Melbourne. We're good at when we have to turn up, and that's exactly what happened. The boys were up for it. They were up for the challenge. We were always first to the ball. We won a lot of our tackles, second balls. We had a really good structure. We put away our chances when they had to be put away, and then we leave with the 3 points.
And Con, last time you played Preston back on your turf at the Grange, it was a real thriller that went right down to the wire. This time, as you mentioned, as you described the game, the way it went, a goal in each half, Stavridis and Paul Quall in the second half with his goal. Not quite so edgy your seat this time. Do you feel that you're travelling a little bit better than last time you faced Preston at this time now?
Well, we probably are travelling a lot better, but in saying what you just said, if Preston, our goalkeeper actually made some, spectacular saves, probably could have been just as close this time as well. So I wouldn't say that football by no, but we were just the lucky that our chances were we took advantage of, and we kept a clean sheet. But as far as the game is concerned, I think it was just as exciting as the first round.
We'll just concede the second goal there as well. And look, we've seen Moreland City really struggle in NPL. We've seen North Geelong struggle in NPL. They were the two teams that really got there in the got promoted last year. And is Kingston City ready for promotion? Is a club in the background starting to, obviously you can't sort of count your chickens until they've hatched because there's still 4 or 5 games to go. But is the club already starting to plan next year in the event that the club is promoted to NPL?
I don't know about planning for next year in case we go up, but what we have done, Gus and myself, is a lot of the signings that we've brought in are players that potentially can stand up in NPL. So, I'll give you an example. One of the boys, the Japanese boys that's gone back now, that tore his hamstring off the bone, was a 22-year-old, can play NPL. The young boy, Theo, that had his debut as a right back from Oakley 21s, definitely play senior football, NPL. Paul, the winger, definitely play NPL. The Skapetis brothers can definitely play. Now, these are all boys, they're under 25, 26, 27, 24. They're early to mid-20s, so they've got heaps of time in front of them, and some of them have had a taste of NPL. So a lot of the signings that we've kept and brought in are potentially for NPL next year. And the nucleus that we've kept in the club, we haven't really changed many players this year. Most of the boys that were brought in can stand up. Even some of the older boys that might be moving on, in the next sort of 12 months, 24 months, they can still definitely be part of the squad. So to answer your question, yes, we're ready to go. And if that does happen, we're looking up for the challenge. And, I don't even think we need too many players. We'll probably need, 3, maybe 4 players just to make ourselves competitive in that league.
And Con, mentioning that mid-season transfer window, how have you seen that period in time? And has the competition for places stepped up a little bit at the club since that took place?
Well, we brought in a couple of players because we had to. We had a couple of season injuries. So we brought in last minute a couple of players, which we haven't really exploited or exercised as we speak. The only one that's two was playing. For example, Jamie Wilson, we got him in from Heidelberg. He only had his first 10-minute run the other day because he's come to us injured. and the other boys just haven't been required as at the moment. But the rest of the team, the nucleus of the team, has been lifting accordingly. So it's always good to bring in a couple of fresh faces, keep the rest of the boys on their toes, keeps the squad healthy, and coming up with the next sort of 3 games, it's a grand final week in, week out for us. They'll all be required.
So we're looking at this Friday night, or Sunday night in particular. It's a bit of an unusual kickoff time for a game. Any reason for that? Like Sunday evening or twilight?
Well, I actually just found out that we're going to 8:30 Friday.
Oh.
It's been Friday because both Dandy City plays Friday, and we preferred, after the debacle 2 weeks ago on Sunday with Paco we thought a bit of a Sunday's doesn't really suit us. So I believe it's going to be changed to Friday.
Well, there you go. We've heard it first here on the Football Out West show. It's a world exclusive, and that'll obviously still be at the Grange, but 8:30 p.m. Friday night. Wow, our Friday nights have just got even better, Steve. Huh? We love our Friday night football. I tell you what.
Oh. Yeah, we do. That Sunday time slot. Yeah, it must be cursed, I think, Con. That's probably a good move to make that switch. But yeah, a couple of tough opponents coming up. How do you rate? You got Dandenong City, as you mentioned, this week, and the following week is Western United. Have you had a look at both of those teams recently to see how they're travelling?
I actually have. I went and watched Western United against Manningham a couple of weeks ago. That was an exciting game, 3-3. I mean, there was 4 penalties in the game, but I've spent time with the A-League youth to know that these boys, they're well programmed, well manicured, and they'll go on for 9 minutes, undoubtedly. Dandy City, they've turned it on. They've obviously done the right signings, or they got their fitness levels right, or they got their injuries back, and they're winning games convincingly. So, and they're not up there by default. So, the next 2 games for us, we said the three challenges were Preston, Dandy, and Western United. So, and even if you go a bit lower, like up until all the way, I think the top 5 can all win the championship this year. No doubt at all. But yeah, huge game for us on Friday, massive game, and we're looking forward to it. We're looking forward to a big crowd. I think that's what lifts our team. That's gets the adrenaline going on our boys, and they get excited, and they produce their best football.
Well, I'll tell you what, the last 4 weeks, we just spoke to Gianluca Iannucci from Green Gully and said the last 4 weeks are going to be an absolute cliffhanger. But yeah, I think our favourite league and the competition of chaos, as we deem it, is going to really produce a grandstand finish. Well, mate, we're wishing you all the very best for the weekend coming and the rest of the season. Before you know it, it's the season's going to be over, and then we'll be hanging out for the next season. That's for sure.
Great season. Yeah, it felt like it was only yesterday.
That's exactly right. Like how quickly it just goes. It's just insane.
Insane, all right. Yeah, and it's congratulations, you guys are doing
good on you. Thanks, Con.
Thanks very much, Con.
And as are you, and thank you very much for joining us again, or returning to the Football Out West show.
Anytime, gentlemen, anytime, and I hope to see you guys for a
That sounds great, Con.
Oh, that sounds
very,
good.
very tasty. Keep up the great work, mate. All the best.
Good on you. That sounds very, very tempting.
That's tempting. I've never actually been to the Grange Reserve, the Kingston's home ground. So,
no.
It's not in the heartland of the Football Out West territory, you could say, but I'm willing to travel for some good footy scran, some good stuff out of the local canteen there that might get us there. And I have seen some of those matches live streamed down there that look very frenetic and high octane, and good atmosphere there with those home fans. So
absolutely,
yeah. Look, we might have to get the Football Out West team bus down there soon.
We have to buy one first of all in order to be able to do that. We're going to take a break very, very shortly. We've got a very short break. When we do return, it is time to look at NPL3 football, and we're going to. It's like a joke today. Our guest list today is almost like the start of a joke. We've had a player, we've had a coach, and now we're about to have a president. It's like a player, a coach, and a president walk into a bar. The player says, anyway, that's. We are going to be speaking to the president. So we've spoken to the player, we've spoken to the coach, And next on is the president of Caroline Springs, George Cross, Mark Sultana, who's always a welcome guest on this show. And he'll be coming to us live from City Vista Reserve, I think, later after this short break. So, folks, don't go away. We've still got a lot to cover tonight, that's for sure. Carpentry by NJT is based in the western suburbs and has many years of experience to assist you in sourcing any and all of your carpentry needs. Carpentry by NJT are great supporters of local soccer clubs in Melbourne's western suburbs, including ambitious State League One outfit, Sydenham Park Soccer Club. Home Builders Corp, meanwhile, is a Melbourne-based construction company by the same owners with more than 15 years' experience. Home Builders Corp specialises in new homes and unit developments. With attention to detail, they work to the highest standard to satisfy their customers with a very quick turnaround. For further details about how either Carpentry by NJT or Home Builders Corp can help you, contact owner-manager Nick on 0410 576 018 or via email at nick@homebuilderscorp.com.au. Carpentry by NJT and Home Builders Corp are the proud major sponsors of the Football Out West show. Welcome back to the Football Out West show. And before we actually do speak to our next guest, the president of the Caroline Springs, George Cross Football Club, we'll be taking a quick look at the NPLW competition. But before that, I do need to address a comment from the comments section. Kevin Thuma says Santino Mamoni, I reckon Tonchi Prusak should come to the Corio Soccer Club versus Whittlesea Rangers football game on Saturday. I would dearly love to. Unfortunately, I've got NPL commentary commitments out at Elco Park, North Geelong, taking on Heidelberg United, and there's about 3 blockbuster games happening in Geelong, possibly 4 this Saturday. There is this weekend coming, and Steve, it's like this, isn't it? This weekend's just finished, and already you're looking forward to next weekend. Oh man, what are we
Absolutely.
Going to do? What are we going to do in 4 weeks' time when the NPL and state leagues finish? Oh my god!
Well, I've got an idea of what I'm doing at that point in time, but
I know. Yes, we'll talk about that in the coming weeks. But mate, let's turn our attention to the NPLW Victoria competition. This is becoming very exciting as well. That battle for the 4th position, the coveted 4th spot. But let's go through the results of some of the games that have been played this week in NPL Victoria, NPLW competition.
Yes, indeed, Tonch. Well, there's some high-scoring games again. So we'll start off Saturday afternoon, Alamein 3, South Melbourne 3. Sydney Allen with a couple of goals. Also Vaki on the score sheet for Alamein. Caitlin Pickett, Taylor Christensen, and Brianne Reid all scoring for South Melbourne, who were, of course, knocked out during the week in the Nike FC Cup semi-final. Burundara Carey Eagles, well, they just continue their winning ways, 4-0 against a somewhat hapless Southern United, although you might have expected an even more lopsided scoreline looking at the table there. Aquino with a hat-trick, Margot Rabin also scoring for the Eagles, while Kite on the score sheet for Southern United. And the match that was in progress this afternoon, the halftime score I saw was Heidelberg 0, Calder 1. We might have a full time. We do, now. Mate.
We do. We've got a full time score just come through, and Calder United settle down, folks. Don't get too excited. Those in the western suburbs.
Oh,
Heidelberg United 0, Calder United 6. Calder United.
Thank you, Alex. That's wow, they really come in with a wet sail there, did Calder. They are hitting form at the right time of the season. Tomorrow night, there's one game to go at the Veneto Club, FC Bulleen Lions against Box Hill United. Hard to even pick a winner in that one. I'm going to go for a draw.
Well, with Calder United now displacing Box Hill United in the top 5, so Calder United now, as a result, have moved into 4th spot with 25 points. It's a must-win game for Box Hill United. They really, really need to win this game. But Bulleen Lions, if they want to stay in touch with the top team, Burundara, it's a must-win game for them. They're 5 points behind with 2 games in hand. If I tell you what, that game has got the hallmark of a ripper clash tomorrow night there at David Barrows Stadium. Monday night football, Bulleen Lions taking on Box Hill United, folks. Do get out there if you're in that area. That kicks off at 8:15 p.m. So what a finish to the NPL2 season we are having as well. But mate, it's time to turn our attention now to NPL3 Victoria competition. Well, the fight for top spot has just got all the more exciting after the weekend just gone by. If we look at the ladder, let's go through the results, and then we will bring our guest on and we'll talk about what is happening at the top of the competition standings. But let's go through the results of NPL3 Victoria.
Yeah, so look, some mixed results again this week. This is the Chaos League Elect, I think. Can we call it that? It's trying to compete with NPL2, and it's doing its best. It's doing its best. So some of those results from the weekend, we had Box Hill getting the 1-0 over Beau Morris, Doveton 3-0 on the road at Essendon Royals. North Sunshine 1, Melbourne Victory 0. 1-1 between Nunawading and Geelong. A 4-1 win for George Cross. That's 10 wins in a row for them as they defeated the Goulburn Valley Suns, who had been knocked out of the cup in midweek. And today it was 4-0 for Ballarat City, who were willing their way out of that relegation space with another great result there. They can't stop scoring goals. They got a clean sheet again today at home.
Is there 3 or 4 wins on the trot for Ballarat City?
Might be as many as 4 now.
I know, yeah. Ever since Michael Trigger's returned.
Anyway, they defeated Burundara Carey 4-0. All of the goals in the first, I think, half or the first 50 minutes or so there. So a flying start there, and player coach Michael Trigger on the score sheet again. We might have to get him on the show soon, I think because there's some good things happening there. They got the form of a top of the table team.
Yeah, if we go through the round 3, round 19 games for NPL3 this weekend. Beau Morris taking on Caroline Springs George Cross on Saturday. Goulburn Valley hosting North Sunshine Eagles in Shepparton. Also on Saturday, Doveton taking on Box Hill United. Burundara Carey Eagles taking on Geelong. And then on Sunday, Ballarat City take on Essendon Royals. And if we bring that ladder up again, goodness me, this could be very interesting. Unfortunately for Ballarat City, they've got a really bad goal difference. But fortunately for them, they are running into some red-hot form. And I tell you what, a win on the weekend will make things very interesting with, 3 games to go thereafter. And then Melbourne Victory taking on Nunawading City. Both those teams drop points this weekend. That game is on next Sunday at Epping Stadium. But what do you make of that, Steve?
I think this could be the new Chaos League. This is going to be a crazy finish, particularly at that lower end of the table as well, because you've got teams who've dropped off a bit. You've got teams who've found form, namely Ballarat City. And, some of the other clubs that have been drawn. Beau Morris has got themselves out of the relegation zone, and then Geelong and Essendon Royals have found themselves at the wrong end of the table at the wrong time of the year. So it's going to be a real battle to keep an eye on there. And at the top of the table as well, with Victory and George Cross going at it. It's, excitement plus.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, to tell us what is exactly happening in the new, what do you call it? The new Chaos
League 2.0, maybe? 2.0. I'm not sure. It's probably a working title. We'll have to convene in our Football Out West team bus to discuss what to call it, mate, I think.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Let's bring on our next guest, the final guest for tonight. He's the president of the Caroline Springs George Cross, Mark Sultana. A very, very excited Mark. Welcome back to the Football Out West show. Always a pleasure to have you on the show, Mark. How are you?
Yeah, great. And you can hear me nice and clear?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
we can even see that big smiley face of yours. And you've got lots of reason to smile. 10 wins on the trot.
Yeah, look, exciting. We break records. I think we set new records for all the club. And I think it's just important to understand how many people have bought into this football club, not only from our coaching team, but the players. And a massive shout out to our supporters and sponsors who have literally given us the willpower to obviously succeed and hopefully continue and continue this wonderful journey. So it's been amazing.
And where do we find you tonight, Mark? It looks like you're backstage. You got the curtain behind you there. Are you at home? Are you down at the club? What's happening?
No, I went to the club to see Western United play against Langwarrin today, and then obviously just got home and fed the dogs and settled in to love what I would do most on a Sunday evening and watch football out west. Guys.
Oh, that's great.
What a great existence that you lead there. Now, tell us a bit about the match day experience for everyone who was there yesterday for your match against Goulburn Valley Suns in the men's. Was there a big crowd there? It looks like I can see many in the background. Was there any special festivities happening?
No, I just think everyone's bought in. Like I said earlier, I think the atmosphere was just amazing. It was one of those real special nights again where old and new supporters. It's crazy, guys. It's and look, what we do. You like to sort of validate it for everybody. It's not just for us in terms of the board and administrating and the coaching staff and players. It's very much a huge effort and experience for all the George Cross fans that have been wanting this for a long time. So it's quite rewarding. I've got to say to you, I literally am on a high at the moment. Look, we haven't achieved the result yet, but we're certainly striving. Breaking club records for 10 wins in a row is something that shouldn't be looked upon lightly. It's hard enough winning one game, but winning 10 in a row and obviously putting us back in the title chase is a huge testament to the whole George Cross family. The players are amazing. They're brutal. Eric's again. What can I say about Eric? He is quite methodical about how he goes about things, and obviously the players love being coached by him. And Peter Kauke, his team manager, who runs around looking after all the players. And then you've got the supporters that come into the rooms after it. I think last night we couldn't pack any more into the dressing room. It was just euphoric, really, to be quite frank.
Now, can I just clarify, Mark, that it actually was a football game being played there yesterday, and not a gymnastics competition? Like, let's have a look at this. The aerial
no springboard required there.
Oh, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, that's Josh Whiteley. He's on a mission at the moment. He literally wants to win the golden boot. So, mind you, he missed a penalty. I probably should fine him, actually. So. But yeah, look, I wanted to come on just to, again, you've got to really express the enjoyment and how proud we are as a group of people at George Cross. Yes, I mean, people talk about our facility and everything, but you've also got to be able to execute it. So, you've got to bring everybody together, and the juniors are buying in, and the women's program's going well. Obviously, we were promoted into state one, which is, again, slightly a different experience for the women's team, but like everything, you've got a bit of time and try and grow the program, try and be supportive as much as possible. But I think, when you're a club like ours, there's obviously a lot of expectation, but it's probably, how you tone it down a little bit. And, there's a lot of sense of excitement. But look, we haven't done the job yet. We're very keen. I was there more to congratulate the club about, again, breaking another record of the club. Like they said, these things don't happen lightly, and you've got to do it with a lot of good people around you. And I've got to say, I'm very much in love with our fans at the moment. I can't tell you how exciting and what a buzz of a stadium it's become. So, and we're live streaming it, which is really good. We've got a lot of international people watching our games. Look, it's how can I say it? I think you've got to be able to congratulate everybody, and you've also got to, somewhat still fly under the radar a little bit because we are still second. But endeavour is that we've got a game up our hand, and hopefully we can win that. And as someone's saying on the text there, Mark will shout drinks. Well, I think I shout drinks often enough anyway, but that's okay.
But Mark will shout drinks, and a big shout out to Alex Sivkorovsky, who does a great job by commentating the games there, and who's also one of our colleagues in the NPL commentators scene as well. But Mark, we spoke earlier in the show how the domestic match calendar or domestic calendar by Football Australia has been released, and there's a placeholder period, if you like, there for a national second division between March and October. What's the latest news with regards to that? Where are we at with that?
Well, I believe it's definitely starting in March. It's hence why I think you've seen that that post. I mean, the other post that came out is obviously that they're not going to run with the normal NPL3 promotion and situation where 1 and 2 would automatically go up and 2 and 3 would play 11 and 12 in NPL2. That was sent to us. I got an email the other day saying that's now off the cards, off the table in a sense. So it looks like it's going to happen. I mean, like I said, we opted to, not facilitate further conversation in and around that. I don't think as a club we're really right there yet. I think the growth of George Cross, as we can all see, I mean, we were sitting on top of the ladder during COVID, and then that was taken away. But then we obviously got promoted from State 1, and we're certainly contesting very hard and diligently in around trying to execute promotion into NPL2. But I think the National Second Division will change a few things. I think there'll be an interesting change with NPL1. Obviously, NPL2 looks like those that are in the relegation positions may survive for the sake of keeping numbers up there if 3 or 4 teams from Melbourne obviously go into the National Second Division. Look, I'm excited about it. I think it's important. I think the growth of our game is quite important. I mean, if we can't literally grow this game on the back of a Women's World Cup, we've got
yes, 100%.
I'll be honest. As a president, I think we've got to, like I said, I always talk about the product at George Cross. And don't get me wrong, guys, I was blessed to have George Cross with history where we can, continue our brand and rebuild that brand and do what we do. But I mean, seriously, if we can't grow the game from not only female and male participation, and like you said earlier in the telecast, Tonchi, about local governments, state governments and federal governments understanding that there is room for growth. I think, clubs like Preston and myself at George Cross and where we'll be upgrading facilities in that area. And, I think there is an appetite for change. I think there's an appetite to find that balance in football. And if we as a group of people can't participate and obviously push the brand, and that's football brand, after this World Cup, well, then we've got serious issues. So,
what do you think, Mark, on that topic? What do you think could potentially hold us back from really growing the game significantly?
You know me, mate. I don't mind being controversial, but I've got to say to you, I think the management across a number of parts of our game need slight reviews. I won't say massive reviews. I think there's an instance where, again, communication in and around changing promotion and relegation 6 games out from the season being completed somewhat questions integrity, right? So I've got to be a little bit careful, but I'm also supportive of Football Victoria because I'm one of those people that could or don't mind saying a few things that may help. I don't think we're here to criticise. I think we're here to probably broadcast what somewhat annoys us to some degree. I think if you see the ability to rebuild brands, and I'd like to keep going on about George Cross, its brand and its history, and its but history is history. We've also, like I said, we're here to build new legacies and set new records and do all those things for the club so the history continues on. But we certainly have a disconnect in what I, like I said to you, in the communication side, how someone can make a decision 6 games out from now. That could be on the back of NSD. Well, if that's the case, present that to us and say that there is thought process in and around the now NSD situation. So these are the parameters that we're working within, and I think again, those clubs in NPL3 probably wouldn't be upset with what was said, to be quite honest.
Yeah. Steve.
Now, moving on and talking again a little bit about the women's game. We mentioned the World Cup. Your women's team having a fairly consistent season. You played your last home game on a Friday evening. Your next home game is a few weeks off, but that's also on a Friday evening. Is that a plan to maybe capitalise on that evening as being the night that you host the women's State 1 games and get a bit of a crowd in and around the club on that night?
Absolutely. And, there again, they're also another brand of our football club. They're an area that we need to give them prominence. Friday night's really good for them. They get a bit of a crowd. It's challenging being State 1. I mean, we've been promoted literally 4 times in the space of 2 years. And that's obviously, lack of teams being able to put a reserve. We've got a strong reserves team as well. We've all got to help each other. I mean, again, they're certainly not senior men, but again, we'll get there. I think sometimes if you step too quickly, you might dilute the brand a little bit, but the Friday nights for us are very strong. We actually, interestingly enough, hosted the first doubleheader. We had an idea of trying to do as many doubleheaders as possible with senior men and senior women. Mind you, the senior men were actually the curtain raiser for the senior women one night, so that was interesting. And that was done on purpose so that the senior crowd, the senior men's crowd, could stay back and watch the senior women. So, look, again, Football Victoria got to allow a lot more games to be changed on a Friday night. They're very, very steadfast on trying to play most of the games on a Sunday, which, again, probably doesn't work for us. We like our Friday nights and our Saturday nights, and those being our 2 senior teams are certainly something that we should showcase around those 2 nights. So, yes, I think absolutely. I think gradually it'll grow. Again, trying to keep that solid position. We obviously made that change to do our 5:30 slot on a Saturday night with the senior men, and that's worked. So I think if there's consistency, that brand will grow quite strong. And like I said, we're still progressive in that area, and it's an area that we certainly won't be slowing down in. It's just, again, trying to find the right position and the right way of managing growth so that we can, again, settle down and obviously try and understand what level we want to get to from there. But the desire is that we get promoted as often as we possibly can, because it'd be nice to have 2 NPL representations, both from senior men and senior women. So certainly we love that space. Yeah,
absolutely. Yep. Mark, it's been a massive show tonight, and thank you for being a part of it. But it's also going to be a monumental climax to the NPL3 competition. We look forward to the next 4 weeks with great anticipation. Wishing you all the best for the rest of the year, and indeed the near future, both with George Cross and you personally as well.
Oh, thank you very much for having me, guys. Like I said, we love the show, and you can see the numbers were quite high tonight. I got it out to everyone and just made sure that we get there and support it and show how strong we are as a football game. We love the Georgies. You can see our new tops there.
Absolutely.
Looking sharp. Very good.
Good stuff. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks,
Sultana,
Mark.
president of the Caroline Springs George Cross. Folks, we're going to take a very, very, very short break. Jingle break. When we return, we're going to have a quick look at State League 1 and State League 2 and then wind it up. It's been a huge show tonight. Don't go away. Well, it certainly conjures up interesting debate about what is going to happen with all the leagues. Will there be league restructures if the National Second Division is off the ground, and 2, 3, possibly 4, maybe even more Victorian clubs are accepted into the NSD. Obviously, that means there's going to be a lot of vacancies and a lot of teams that initially were going to be, relegated. They'll be saved, but it will obviously have a flow-on effect to the lower league competitions. And State League, one of them. Let's have a look at State League 1, the Northwest Division, Steve.
All right, so running through those results on the weekend quickly, we had, to kick us off, Whittlesea Rangers 5, Whittlesea United 1, Yarraville Glory 1, Keilor Park 0, Brimbank Stallions 1, Sydenham Park 0, Upfield 0, Corio 3, Altona City 1, FC Strathmore 0, and Westgate 3, Banyule City 1, Altona City sitting pretty at the top of the table, Tonchi.
They are. They've got a game in hand, and they're 6 points clear. So they certainly look like they are going to be the team that automatically gets promoted. And if there is a restructure because of movement at the very, very top, well, teams like Sydenham Park and possibly even Westgate may have an opportunity to get promoted. But looking ahead to round 18 games this weekend, we've got Upfield hosting Brimbank Stallions on Friday night, Whittlesea United taking on Yarraville Glory on Friday night. Then on Saturday, Corio taking on Whittlesea Rangers, FC Strathmore at home to Banyule City, Keilor Park taking on Altona City, bottom versus top, and Sydenham Park taking on Westgate. They are the games in State League 1. Moving along to State League 2, and there's the ladder. Clifton Hill, they're on top, but they lost on the weekend. Steve, tell us about all the results of round 17.
Yeah, round 17 saw these results as follows. Epping City 0, Western Suburbs 2. FC Clifton Hill 0, Mill Park 1. Hoppers Crossing 0, Albion Rovers 4. Laylaw United 2, Geelong Rangers 1. Westvale Olympic 2, Altona East Phoenix 0. And Hume United 0, Altona North 3. And as you say, Clifton Hill and Western Suburbs both on 38 points, leading the way at the top of the table in the State 2, with Geelong Rangers and Epping City at the wrong end of the table at the moment.
Yes, Altona North, by virtue of that win, leapfrogged the Geelong Rangers out of the relegation zone. And, well, like as we said, we just don't know what is going to happen with all this possible league restructuring happening. But we do know what's going to happen next weekend in round 18 action. Fourth last round of the season. Friday night, Altona East Phoenix host Albion Rovers. They're at Paisley Park. Altona North are at home to Clifton Hill on Saturday. Mill Park hosting Epping City. Western Suburbs at home to Hoppers Crossing. On Saturday, Geelong Rangers taking on Westphal Olympic at Myers Reserve. Myers Reserve was the subject of some vandalism, which resulted in some copper wiring from their floodlights being stolen in the middle of the night.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, unbelievable. And it's not the first time it's happened. It's happened on several occasions in recent years. If you want to find out more about what happened there, tune into the Game of Two Halves podcast tomorrow night at 8 p.m. because the special guest on tomorrow night's show will be the recently appointed president of the Geelong Rangers, Tim Santalucia, and Hume United taking on Laylaw United at Laura Douglas Reserve on Saturday night at 7 p.m. to round out round 18 in the NPL State League 2 competition. But that pretty much brings us to the end of the show. Thursday night, Women's World Cup kicks off, and then Friday night, so many games. Saturday, can't wait for next week.
And it's that early time slot as well, because while we're on at 8 o'clock against Ireland, it's Norway playing against New Zealand at 5 p.m. So I might be trying to get home early from work to see the opening, the first kickoff of that one at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Good double header of football on Thursday night. Might have to just get a little spot on the couch, a bit of a groove in there, ready to go in advance.
Yeah, with this cold weather, once you get a groove, it's very hard to get out of the groove, if you know what I mean. Folks, thank you so much for being a part of this week's Football Out West show. It's been an absolute pleasure having you all here with us. And remember, do if you would like to support the show that supports your sport, if you'd like to advertise your business, or if your club would like to sponsor an episode on the Football Out West show, look, do get in touch with us. You can get in touch with us via email at footballoutwest@gmail.com, or send us a private message via our Facebook page, and we'll get back to you as quickly as possible. We'd love to have you support our show, but it'll also support your show. This is as much your show as it is our show. Folks,
That's it, Tosh. Maybe we could even get a live show to end the season. Who knows?
Yeah,
Who knows?
that'd be great. Wouldn't that be good? It is the 19th episode. So, yeah, we're starting to, it's very, very close towards the end of the season. We'd like to have, we'd like to have 30. At the moment, we are scheduled to have 25 episodes. But if we can get a few more sponsors and a few more advertisers, we might be able to extend that through to to episode 30, which would be the ideal. That would mean another 11 episodes of Steve and myself, and there may be some interesting guest co-hosts coming up in the next few months. Ooh. We'll have to
Spoilers.
keep that.
No, we can't say.
We'll have to keep that for maybe next week's show.
Yeah.
Steve, all the best for the
Thanks,
week
Tonchi.
coming up.
Have a great week and have a great show with the Game of Two Halves podcast coming up this tomorrow evening.
Yeah, we'll do. Folks, once again, thank you very much for being a part of tonight's Football Out West show. We look forward to your company again next Sunday night at 8 p.m. Until then, enjoy your football. There's a lot of football coming your way. Good night.